It has happened. U.S. President Donald Trump just signed a Bitcoin and crypto executive order in which they will now evaluate the establishment of a strategic crypto reserve. Additionally, CBDCs are to be banned. In the crypto executive order, they are now set to evaluate the establishment of a strategic crypto reserve. Additionally, CBDCs are to be banned. The CP 121 regulation is set to be circumvented. The regulation in general should be improved much more. There should be a right to self-custody. Ultimately, Bitcoin should simply be a legitimate asset, but not just Bitcoin, but also crypto. But the Valhalla moment hasn't come. Disappointment as the US isn't making massive Bitcoin purchases, at least at the current time of recording. Because there was definitely disappointment, since it's not included that the US is supposed to make massive Bitcoin purchases. Or something like that, it's just supposed to be evaluated here. To take more crypto assets here, in the end, or to create a reserve here. Additionally, not a single time is the word Bitcoin is mentioned here in the executive order. I actually didn't read every single word. I just skimmed through it. But actually, the word Bitcoin isn't mentioned anywhere here, only the word crypto. And there is definitely some criticism here. We need to take a look now. What's happening here exactly is, because this is an incredible thing on one hand, we've never seen anything like this in history. We need to put this into perspective. It's ultra bullish. And now we need to put the whole thing into perspective. In the long run, it's likely going to be ultra bullish. In the short term, there is definitely some disappointment, which is really understandable, because there's no big Bitcoin purchase involved. It's being evaluated for now. That's going to take some time before Bitcoin is actually bought here. Could it take some more time? When will Bitcoin even be bought? But it still looks good that in the future, the US will continue to buy Bitcoin, or at least won't sell the current Bitcoin. But we'll take a look at that in a bit. Why that is, but it could really happen that in the worst case, instead of a Bitcoin reserve, a massive shitcoin reserve is built up here. And we'll take a look at that in just a moment, why that could happen. But first, let's enjoy this. Here's a clip for you from Donald Trump. Here, as he signs the first Bitcoin, or rather, crypto executive order in American history. Here, he signs, and listen very closely what he has to say here.
I am now the crypto chancellor, internal working group to make America the world capital in crypto under your leadership.
Which is really taking off, right?
Believe it.
Thanks. I was in the Mexican community from their country. So this is really wild. You can say and do whatever you want about Trump, but he's really going all in. He pardons Ross Ulbricht, and now he's also bringing in this executive order, and it's not off the table that more could come. Cynthia Lummis is fully involved now. She has a new position in the US government and is directly connected with Donald Trump. She will also push the strategic Bitcoin reserve forward. Even the states at the state level will push the Bitcoin reserve strategies forward in the U.S. And now you really need to pay attention. What's happening here right now is, first of all, before Donald Trump signs this whole thing, it's been said that Donald Trump is going to make the U.S. the crypto capital. Donald Trump said that yesterday in Davos at the World Economic Forum, that he's here, the U.S. as the crypto capital, like the absolute crypto capital. And now Donald Trump actually says at the very end here, after signing the executive order, we're going to make a lot of money from this executive order. And do you know what that means? In my opinion, it definitely means that the US is already considering buying Bitcoin, buying cryptocurrencies, and so on, because otherwise it wouldn't be here. Donald Trump can't say that you make a lot of money with that. You can really only make a lot of money with cryptocurrencies or with Bitcoin. Of course, if you have skin in the game here, if you're buying Bitcoin, and if you're not just buying Bitcoin directly, then you bring a lot of capital into the country by basically bringing innovation in, by bringing companies into the country, by creating a more attractive environment through better regulation. And it's also part of the executive order that the regulation is simply going to get better here, that the US is just going to become the crypto hotspot. And I'm so bullish about this that I even brought out my Bitcoin boxer shirt here at the beach today. Should I drop a link for you down below? Where's the fun at? You could basically buy Bitcoin boxer swim trunks here. Then you can wear the boxer shirt, the Bitcoin boxer shirt or swim trunks while shoveling snow in Germany. Let's fucking go. So here again, it's close to 21 million. But like I said, unfortunately, it's always just about crypto here. I don't want to hate on any cryptocurrencies or anything like that, because then the Ripple boys will chime in again. Yeah. Hey, Ripple is going to take over everything, and Ripple is going to be the new world currency. Here, we're setting up a Ripple reserve and all that. Yeah, we can do all of that. That's all well and good. But when it really comes down to building a strategic reserve, then really no altcoin makes sense here. The only currency or the only coin that really makes sense here is really Bitcoin, because everything else is then some gimmicks, payment networks or something. But when it really comes down to providing a store of value function, then only Bitcoin is really in the running. Look, now I've arrived at this awesome cave here in El Salvador, and we can explore the cave right away. When it comes to a reserve, it's really about storing purchasing power for decades or even centuries. If we do that with some fancy altcoin, we don't even know if it'll still be around in 2 years. When it comes to a reserve, it's really about storing purchasing power for decades or even centuries. If we do that with some trendy coin, where we don't even know if it'll still be around in 2 years, then it's very, very questionable. Historically speaking, we can see that the half-life of such a shitcoin is very, very low. And the only protocol that's set up in a way that it can still work in 100 years is simply Bitcoin, because it's decentralized. It's just Bitcoin here. Definitely, that's the bitter aftertaste. Here, Peter McCormick rightly pointed out that this whole executive order doesn't include any Bitcoin. But that shouldn't bother us, because still it will be a net positive for Bitcoin, for crypto, for the whole market. What's probably the most decisive and truly groundbreaking thing here is that it says, the SEC officially cites SCP 121, which prevented banks from holding Bitcoin. So basically, the SCP 121 regulation is now being overridden here. And that made it really, really difficult for banks here, holding Bitcoin in self-custody. And that's what Michael Saylor has always said. And I've already said it in several videos. We need Bitcoin ETFs, we need fair value accounting, and we need banks that can hold Bitcoin in self-custody. And if we have these three factors, then Bitcoin can break out to several million here. Then comes the Valhalla candle. Now, of course, people have already started throwing out memes. Is this really the Valhalla candle that everyone has been talking about? No, that's definitely not the Valhalla candle yet. But that's also because of that, because there really haven't been any actual coins bought here, etc. But that means, for example, British Hodl had a really cool take in the X. He said, hey, we don't need to focus on the paperwork, but the executive order. That's what's ultimately going to come down and win with Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. The holdings are bought or sold. That is what is signed here. Isn't really the key thing, but what's really important is what's going on behind the scenes. Whether Bitcoin is really being accumulated here or if no Bitcoin is being accumulated. Look back there. Do you see that? Wow, the sun is really blinding. Look back there, photo shoot. Let's fucking go. Just jumping into the photo shoot. Just walked in here. Give a like here for the girls who are doing a photo shoot back there. Definitely, that's a really interesting take. Saying, okay, hey, screw what's being signed here. Show me your portfolio, show me what's really making waves here. Of course, the regulatory security. And the regulatory environment will also play a role. That the price of Bitcoin is going to go up in the long run. But in the short term, it's really all about that. Are more Bitcoins being bought or are more Bitcoins being sold? And right now, the way it looks, nothing has really happened in the portfolio here. I think if I understood that correctly. Here, it's not even declared that the Bitcoin is being turned into a stockpile. The remaining 200,000 Bitcoin that the USA has, or rather, now it's a bit less. And I don't think it's declared that no Bitcoin is being sold here, if I understood it correctly. Instead, it's all about evaluating right now, whether they're possibly buying even more Bitcoin holdings or crypto holdings. And then it's probably really about that here now. Okay. Which currencies are coming into play? Are we making a shitcoin reserve? Are we making a memecoin reserve? Is the Trump coin also going into the reserve? Is Donald Trump possibly going to pump from his own bags? That accusation has come up time and again, that it was said, okay, hey, Donald Trump, he doesn't want to promote the USA in any way, but he just wants to pump his own bags. Then he throws his own Trump coin into the reserve. And then he can obviously pump his own bags. Here, ultimately, they say pump it up. So I'd say that was definitely very, very crazy. There are also reports that Donald Trump is starting to buy Bitcoin with his Liberty platform, whatever it's called. I'm not interested in that either. I mean, I am interested in it when I mention it here in the video, but I just wanted to say that I'm not really into it that much to somehow build up a shitcoin reserve and buy wrapped Bitcoin. The implication was that Trump might have been front-running. Just before the executive order, he started buying Bitcoin and shifting from shitcoins to Bitcoin. Then he bought wrapped Bitcoin. Trump started buying Bitcoin here, and he also began shifting from shitcoins to Bitcoin. And then he bought wrapped Bitcoin. Some people interpreted it as a way to avoid accusations later on, that he was basically engaging in insider trading, because now it is. No insider trading because he's not actually buying direct Bitcoin. Instead, he's buying a Bitcoin derivative. He's buying a shitcoin Bitcoin, if you want to put it that way. And that's why they can't accuse him later on of front-running the whole thing. And that's why they can't accuse him later on, that he might have been front-running the whole thing. But what's also super important here is basically the section about CBDCs. Just because of that section, it's probably really a groundbreaking executive order here. What's it called? Except to the extent required by law, the authorities are hereby prohibited from doing so. To take measures, to establish, issue, or promote CBDCs within the jurisdiction of the United States or abroad. I mean, just give it a break this time. We now have a freedom movement here. Booze, winning here, it doesn't matter whether Bitcoin is being bought or not. But we have the anti-freedom tools here. Those are definitely going to be abolished. Sending a big shout out to Christine Lagarde here in the ECB Ivory Tower, because in the end, this is happening in the USA. The innovation. The USA isn't sleeping on this. The USA is betting on AI. The USA is betting on Bitcoin. Let me show you again back here. Photo shoot. Let's fucking go. How awesome. For sure, in the USA, they're really focusing on innovation. The USA, they're really doing something here. Groundbreaking. And in Europe, they're just sleeping on the whole thing. Christine Lagarde, she's just chilling, basically pushing the digital Euro CBDCs. And that's really fascinating, that we're basically seeing two worlds here. One world is opening up, and the other world is closing off. And now there's another exciting excerpt here, where it says here, the working group is supposed to assess the potential creation and maintenance of a national stock of digital assets, and propose criteria for the creation of a solid stock. That may come from cryptocurrencies that the government would legally seize as part of its law enforcement actions. So basically, that's exactly what I'm saying here. It's not like they're saying, okay, hey guys, we're buying 5,000. Bitcoin, we're buying 10,000. Bitcoin. But here it's really. Yeah, they kind of eased into it, said, yeah, we'll take a look and revise it, and now we're forming a working group. And do you know what that means? That means that each of you can now front-run the USA. Because now it really looks like this thing is going to go through sooner or later. Pressure will be applied by Bitcoin. The states are also going to apply plenty of pressure. You can definitely make some noise if you want to buy Bitcoin here. I'll put a link down below to 21 Bitcoin, how you can easily, safely, and simply buy Bitcoin. Absolutely recommended. Here you can get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin with the code Bitcoin. You can't see me at all. I'm like a ghost. And that also means that now every country like Russia, China, and so on can tend to front-run the US here. And now we'll see who's smart and who isn't. This is where the wheat will be separated from the chaff. And now it will show who's smart and who isn't. Now the wheat will be separated from the chaff here. That means we see smart people betting on Bitcoin. The smart ones are the ones who are betting on Bitcoin. And on the other hand, we will see the people who then, like the EU, basically sells their Bitcoin, or Germany sells the Bitcoin. Like the EU is banking on CBDCs, and so on. And that's going to be really exciting, that we are basically here. We have a divided world. Some are gearing up for freedom, while others just want to go down. Basically here, by setting up a surveillance state and kind of introducing socialism. So that feels a bit like that for me. Of course, a lot is going to happen here in the EU as well, because the US is the one setting the pace here. And if the U.S. is pushing Bitcoin forward, then the EU has to follow suit. That means the EU really has no choice. The EU is basically just a puppet of the U.S. The EU really doesn't have much to say. Lagarde has nothing to say. Some people also think that the ECB is independent and so on. It's really not. The ECB is neither independent from politics, nor is it really independent from the U.S. The ECB is just a massive puppet. And if the US really starts buying Bitcoin here, then that could also happen, what Joanna Kuda has already predicted. Then Germany and other big nations have to follow suit and start buying Bitcoin too. We really need to wait and see what happens in the next few days. What's happening here, how this whole thing develops. That means a lot can still happen. Also, what's going on around the whole situation, how things are developing here in Cynthia Lomas. What proposals you're making here. Look how awesome this looks here by the rocks. There were already a few people here doing some rock climbing. It's really crazy. It's definitely pretty high up here, but it's really awesome. When you're bouldering here at the beach, it's pretty tricky to boulder on the sand. I'll definitely tell you one thing. Bitcoin is on the rise. Bitcoin is like the sun here, the tool that brings us more freedom in the world. The tool that brings us light into the world. The tool that reunites us. The tool that reconciles us. The tool that might also address everything that has gone really, really wrong over the last 200 years, where we've been fighting. Separated, where there was a lot of war caused by fiat currencies, which brought a lot of bad into the world. Exactly, Bitcoin is like the sun here, the one that will heal a lot. Because the sun is really something very, very powerful. You guys really should. Excuse me. Hey, what's going on? In your head. Me. Okay, you're taking pictures. We are really part of a turning point now, and Bitcoin is going to lead this turning point. See you later. Let me know what you think about the massive movements happening here. See you later. Peace out.